I need to go to bed. But you guys know how it is. When I get an idea and I go, I wonder. So around Thanksgiving, I said, all right, so American Thanksgiving is a deadline. That's, if you're in the playoffs at this point, you're probably going to make it. Even though it's only 20% of the way through the season, you've got 80% of the season left. Really shouldn't be, well, 25% of the season done. Really, 75% left. It really shouldn't be that simple. Kind of is. At the American Thanksgiving mark, Tampa led the way with 34 points in 21 games. Toronto was second, then Detroit. In the Metro, Columbus was first, then New Jersey, and then the Islanders. The wild cards were Pittsburgh and Washington. In the Metro or Central, St. Louis was leading the way, and man, St. Louis fans were excited, and I was excited for St. Louis because it looked like they were finally ready to become an elite team. And Winnipeg and Nashville were second and third. In the Pacific, Vegas, for Vegas reasons, was leading the way. LA was second, and Calgary was third. Vancouver and San Jose were the wild card teams. Sitting outside the playoffs, Boston, Florida, Philly, Florida, Minnesota, Anaheim, and Dallas. Now, Florida's still outside the playoffs. Why am I talking about them? Because Florida at this point had 8 wins, 11 losses, and 2 ties. Right now, they have 33 wins, 25 losses, 7 ties. Ties being overtime losses. That just shows that A, I'm tired, and B, I'm old. So it's kind of both. Tired and old, told? Wired? Not wired. Wired wouldn't work. Anyways, Florida's had a very good run, and because they've only played 65 games, and we'll get into that in a second, I'm not ruling them out for knocking out one of these teams and making the whole argument of making it or fallible. Because in the 4 seasons that preceded this season, 12 to 13 teams out of the 16 that were in the playoffs at the American Thanksgiving were still in the playoffs at the end of the year. We're not to the end of the year, but at the end of the year, I'm going to be talking about playoffs, and we're not going to be talking about American Thanksgiving, so I might as well talk about it now. Right now, Tampa's first. That looks familiar. Boston is second. So Boston at this point in American Thanksgiving had 20 games, 9 wins, 7 losses, 4 overtime losses, 22 points. I was not getting Boston ready for contender status. In fact, with them 3 points out of the playoffs, I had them mired at the bottom of the power rankings, and a lot of Boston fans weren't impressed with me. And there were some arguments in those power ranking videos, at least in the comment section. Philly was nowhere near where they are now, but Philly also was an extremely unlucky team, and that's still happening now. But they're in a playoff spot. Minnesota looked half decent. They played 21 games, and that is something to consider when you look at this. They were 5 points back of third place in their division, but they were tied for the wild card. So San Jose was in because they played 1 less game. But of course, San Jose's still in the playoffs. Vancouver is nowhere near the playoffs. They've gone from 11-8-3 at American Thanksgiving to 25-33-9. So they've won 14 games since then, lost 25 in regulation, and lost 6 more in overtime or a shootout. That's sad. I'm pretty sure they have the worst record since the American Thanksgiving of any team in the league. And they've earned it. And of course, Calgary now sits outside the playoffs. They're sitting with a 33-25-10 record, so they're 8 games above 500. They were 4 games above 500 at American Thanksgiving. So they've only been 4 games above 500 in the 44 games since then. And that's why they are where they are. 500 hockey will not get you in the playoffs. Barely above 500 hockey won't get you in the playoffs. The interesting thing here is that a wild card team in the West had 23 points to get in the playoffs. A wild card team in the East needed 25. Right now, a wild card team in the East needs 75, and a wild card team in the West needs 79. So there are teams in the West who could say we're being screwed because we're in the West instead of in the East, but they don't have balanced schedules, so I don't look at it that way because the schedule's not balanced. Sort of like this board isn't balanced. You can see the slant. Ignore the slant. Now you can't because you've seen it. I'm tired. Boston, of course, right now is entrenched in second place. They've gone on a hell of a run. Since American Thanksgiving, 33 wins, 8 regulation losses, 4 overtime losses to get to 92 points. They've had 70 points in their last 45 games. Toronto's had a very, very solid run. They're now sitting 17 games above 500. They were 6 above 500 at American Thanksgiving. With 85 points, they have more than Pittsburgh. They're within 6 of Vegas. And don't worry about Nashville. Don't even look at Nashville. Nashville and Tampa, first and second. Here, first and second were Tampa and St. Louis. St. Louis was second place in the entire NHL at American Thanksgiving. Now, they sit with a record of 35, 27, and 5. They're 8 games above 500, and at American Thanksgiving, they were 11 games above 500. So you can look at a total record and go, hey, they've actually got a pretty good record. Or you can look at how they've played since late November and say, wow, what the hell happened there? Anaheim has gone on a decent run. They were 10-8-3. Again, they were tied for the last wild card spot. They're at 34-12, 34-22-12 right now. So they've won 24. They've lost 14 in regulation. They've lost 9 in overtime. Losing in overtime works, kids. Do it. At least if you're Anaheim, it works. Of all of the teams that are sitting right now in playoff positions, Anaheim is the most overtime losses with 12. Philly's next with 11. And then after that, you've got San Jose at 9, Winnipeg at 9, Nashville at 9, and that's it for 9. And of course, over here, the most overtime losses with Jersey with 4, and now they're sitting with 8. Jersey, of course, has slipped from second in the division to the number 1 wild card. Columbus was first in the division. They've slipped to the number 2 wild card. The wild card teams were Pittsburgh and Washington, and they've moved up to 1 and 2 in the division, respectively. But Pittsburgh, it's been a more miraculous run because of the fact that in between this and the middle of the season, they were miserably bad. They were downright bad. And it's been quite the comeback for them. And for Vegas, Vegas really has been the story of the year, and this shows why. 13-6-1 after 20 games, and I kept hearing, but they've had an easy schedule. They've had games at home. The schedule's going to get tougher. There's no way they finish first. At this point, Vegas was 1 point ahead of LA, 2 points ahead of Calgary, and there was a feeling that these guys can't keep this going. Right now, Vegas is 10 points ahead. Since then, in 47 games, they've had 30 wins, 13 regulation losses, and 4 overtime losses. They've got better since then. Vegas has gone on an incredible run. San Jose has as well, in that they've gone from the number 2 wild card to second in the division, and they've played very well. Dallas has done very well for themselves. They were 11-10-1 at American Thanksgiving. Now they're 37-24-6. They've fallen back a bit recently, but I don't see them falling out of the playoffs. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean these are the teams that are going to make the playoffs, but isn't it strange that a time of the year when you look and you say, well, there's still a lot of games left. More than half the teams that were in playoff spots then are still in playoff spots now. Meaning that a lot of teams that were outside the playoffs, only 5 that were outside the playoffs are in right now. That's out of 15 teams. So for 10 of them, they were out of the playoffs then, they're out of the playoffs now. And think about the interesting teams that are in here. Carolina, still not in here. Montreal, nope. Chicago, nope. Edmonton, not a chance. Ottawa, nope, not even close. It's strange, and it's one of those things that when after 20 games, we could hear fans of some of these teams that were off to slow starts saying the season's still young, they can still turn it around. The reality is, once you reach American Thanksgiving, if you're close, you can still get in. Minnesota was close, Anaheim, Dallas, they were all close, they were all still in the running. So the fact that they're in doesn't surprise me. Philadelphia and Boston, Boston was sitting 3 points out, Philly was sitting 4 points out. So it's not a huge surprise, although Philly, 21 points in 22 games, was way below Columbus, New Jersey, and the Islanders. And the Islanders, what a colossal fall for them. They're 29, 29, and 10 now. So they've had 17 wins, 22 regulation losses, and 8 overtime losses since American Thanksgiving. So there you go. It's just a comparison between where we were on American Thanksgiving, where we are now. And let me know which team you think sits outside of playoff spot right now that you think still gets in there. Is it Colorado? Is it going to be Calgary? Are they going to get back in there and make this a more even thing? Are they going to knock Dallas out? Could Anaheim still be in trouble? Anaheim's 4 points ahead of Calgary. They've played the same amount of games, 14 games left. Just let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for watching. You know how it is. I get the board out and I turn into Rain Man. I don't know what the hell happens. I don't get it. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.